Welcome to the You Can Man podcast, episode 51. I'm Josh.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Dave.
And on this week's episode, attic insulation. Where to start?
All right, guys, welcome back to the You Can Man podcast, where we believe what one man can do, you can do as well, with a little help from your friends and the proper know-how. This week, we're talking about attic insulation. I know, it's not that exciting, but we're going to try to make it fun, and it's something you should be thinking about.
It's important.
It's very important, and something a lot of people just don't think about because I've got some attic insulation up there, but do you have enough? So we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to talk about how I sucked all my old insulation out, along with a lot of rat feces.
Whoa.
So,
I know that you have enough insulation. I know I don't. So we'll get into that.
We're going to get into that. But first, guys, how has your week been, or anything interesting you want to talk about?
Yeah, mine's weather related. And I know,
of course it is.
We don't, it's timely and it's very location specific. I don't know how the weather is in the rest of the country, but we were supposed to start a baseball season for 5-year-old boys about 3 weeks ago.
I think more than 3 weeks ago.
We've had 3 practices and a game rained out. We have not met our team yet.
What?
Our team has not gotten together yet because of the rain and the cold. Now, this is a new rule from our league.
So to fill you in, Josh, you're one of the co-hosts of this podcast, is also Coach Josh for Team Blue Crew, which my son is also going to play on. I'm an unofficial assistant coach. Josh is the head coach. And so, like Josh said, we haven't been able to meet because of this it's not a crazy rule because they're 5 years old, but it's a little bit ridiculous that there's a winter season. I think they call it spring season. It's currently winter in Georgia. We're having a baseball season. We can't play because, Josh, what's the rule?
Okay, so there's the rain has been the 3 practices canceled. Rain.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
The other rule is we now have a wind chill thing. So if the wind chill is below 40, we're scrapping
40?
practice. I know.
Come on.
I get it. Maybe if I would understand it if they said, hey, look, if it's in the 30, if the temperature's in the 30s, you can't go out. I guess I'm not going to say I agree with that. They're 5 years old, so maybe I do. I don't agree with it, but the wind chill in the 40, I don't.
Well,
the
bigger problem I have is it's February.
It is. Oh, that's what I'm saying. Like, don't take my money for this season.
Yeah.
If we can't play in the winter.
Yeah.
Right.
The major leagues start in February. They start in Florida and Arizona.
Right.
We are not there.
Yes.
So anyway, the weather has been nuts here. We had a month's worth of rain last week, and we're supposed to get a month's worth of rain coming up. So major excitement.
Well, hopefully you guys get a chance to actually. Have you at least been going to the batting cage?
No, not as a team.
Oh,
I mean, all the team events have been canceled.
Because I remember when my son was playing baseball, we would do the local.
We've been hitting
indoor batting.
Oh,
cages.
you do the indoor batting cage?
Yeah.
D-bats?
Yes, D-bats.
So we've been hitting off the tee in the backyard.
Is our local batting cage place.
Yeah, haven't done that.
Would you hit in the cage when you went to D-bats? Because I totally would.
No, I didn't. Maybe I should have.
You should have.
I probably would have been horrible and embarrassed my son. So probably not. But hey, I wanted to give some encouragement to anybody that's currently trying to lose any kind of weight. Because I have lost 40 pounds.
Whoa.
That's horrifying.
I've officially lost 40 pounds.
You've lost my child.
It's funny because I remember a couple of years ago, I telling myself, I just need to lose about 15 pounds and I'd probably be good. No. I needed to lose like 40.
You needed to lose 4. You needed to lose 30.
No,
you've gone 10 pounds into the red.
No, I still got some belly fat, which I've heard is very difficult to get rid of. But I just want to give some encouragement that you can really do this. So I did a calorie deficit was my really big thing.
How long's it been?
It's been since almost the beginning of September.
Yeah, see, I feel like you dropped it pretty quick.
Yes.
Like you just got rid of it.
Yeah. But it was a calorie deficit. That's what really did it.
You went solid math on it.
So you're burning more than you take in.
So I have a free app, My Fitness Pal, I think it is.
Yep.
It's what is it, Under Armour or something?
Yeah.
So, yeah, sponsors that, and it's completely free. You know, there's some ads and stuff, but that's what I've been using. So I don't think there's been a day gone by that I haven't logged on to it.
Wow.
And
Hey, yeah, different things work for different people. I've tried calorie counting, never successful with it. But
Really?
I know people who have done it. Obviously, Tim's good at it.
See, to me, as an engineering mind, calorie deficit just makes sense because you're expending more calories than you're taking in. Therefore, you will lose weight.
Yeah.
yeah, one thing I will say at the beginning, I was counting my exercise time as a deduction of the calories, and I stopped doing that
Okay.
because I got into this like, well, maybe I burn more today, so I can just eat.
Right.
No, just don't even count your exercise. Just
Do it on top of.
do it on top of that, and then you'll just be.
That's how you drop 40 pounds.
That's how you drop 40 pounds. Anyways, just a little encouragement there. You can, man, lose 40 pounds.
We'll do an exercise. We'll do a fitness and weight loss podcast, I'm sure.
That's hilarious that we would even think about doing
three
that.
guys
That
doing
wasn't
a
on-
weight loss podcast.
That was not on the radar when we started this.
No, it
thing,
wasn't.
but
It was not.
Good
We
for
were
us.
all pretty out of shape. And in fact, we want to redo our, what do we call that?
Our headshot.
Our profile photo.
Yeah.
Could we beat up our former selves in that headshot?
Yeah.
Probably.
Probably.
You could at least run away from
You
them,
just
right?
put a plate of donuts in front of them and leave.
yeah, pretty much. Okay, let's get into some insulation stuff. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter show because really we're just focusing on attic insulation. And really
Basic types.
basic types. So I first wanted to kind of tell a story of my own house. So we have a 1964 ranch, so older house, and it had a pretty significant rat problem, right?
Do you have live rats?
I don't think we had any live rats by the time when we moved in, but I think I lost count of how many rat carcasses I removed while doing the renovation, but many of them were in the attic.
Nice.
So, I had insulation up there. It wasn't adequate, but I just got to looking at it. I'm like, there's so much rat crap everywhere. And there was even more that it was. There had to have been larger animals. Do you know what I mean? Like
I do not know what you mean.
some of the feces that I found
Scat.
You found some droppings.
were significantly larger than what would come out of a rat.
Like a deer?
I think at some point there was likely possums,
Yeah, possum, a raccoon.
raccoons,
Yeah.
something at some point in that attic because what was up there, I'm like, okay, this
did not come out of a rat.
This ain't from a
Beyond
rat. So a lot of you are thinking, how do you clean an attic like that? Well, the answer is a gas-powered vacuum cleaner.
Whoa.
That's essentially what it is. So you can rent these things from tool rental places.
Big
And
box.
Yeah. I don't know that Home Depot had it
No?
when I think I got it from
I
a
know they got the
different.
blowers, but I don't know about the vacuums. Okay.
Yeah. So, but maybe in certain areas of the country, it's kind of more of a specialized thing, I would think, because
Okay.
not a whole lot of people are crazy enough to do this themselves.
Yeah, they're usually just
Because-
going on top of whatever they
Yeah,
got.
because let me tell you, it was a horrible job. It was
a dirty job?
absolutely horrible job because I did it in July.
Oh,
my first
no,
church.
man. No, you got to do that in like
It was a
February.
huge
and
mistake.
shout out to my friend Brandon. He helped me do this.
Did you guys lose 40 pounds that weekend?
Probably. We still talk about this. Okay, so it's a gas-powered vacuum cleaner, like I mentioned, and there's a very long hose that's it's probably maybe 8 inches. I don't know, an 8-inch hose or
All right.
something. Maybe a little larger because, you got to think you're sucking up old insulation. And anyhow, we had cut a access hole in the ceiling because it was a spot that I was going to take out a load-bearing wall anyways. So we had already decided we were.
So you didn't go up
into
like through
ceiling.
the attic hole or whatever?
Well, when we were on that side of the house, we did.
Okay,
but we're on
gotcha.
the other
Yeah,
side of the
okay, that
house.
makes sense.
We
Yep.
wouldn't have enough slack in the line to do
Yep.
that. So, anyways, but they give you these. They're essentially like these fabric bags that you put on the vacuum. Okay. Well,
to contain the
roofing
waste.
nails will pierce.
When you
through
said
that.
bag, I was like, that does not sound adequate.
So look, if you're in your attic, you're going to have nails up there from either framing or when they initially did the roof. There's going to be nails there. Mm-hmm. Well, we were sucking up nails and we were both in the attic at that time. And I was like, I'm going to go check downstairs, down to the main level from the attic to make sure that where we're at with the bag. How full is the bag? Well, I went down there. And a nail had shot through the bag.
Oh, man.
And it was just snowing, insulation just everywhere.
And was it outside?
Yeah, it was outside, but still.
Still a mess.
It was an absolute mess. I wonder if any of the neighbors saw it. Because it was literally like I had a snow machine. And it was just dumping just everywhere. But like I said, it was a absolutely horrible job. But I did save a chunk of change doing that because I think that I don't know what the quote would have been to do. I don't even know if I got a quote to do that. I think I probably did and then decided to do it. But this was like 2009, so it was years ago. But I just could not live with the fact that I was going to have so much rat turds up there. I just couldn't do it.
Well, it's one of those things that once you set your eyes on it,
yes.
You'll never be able to forget it.
You can't unsee it.
Because it was always going to be up there. If I had just blown in insulation over that, no, I just couldn't do it.
After that story, I'd have been all right with it.
I couldn't do it. Okay. So after the horrible, and I mean horrible, job it was to suck all that old insulation out, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to hire somebody to blow this in. And so I did, because it was going to be an entire attic to do. They were in and out of there in, I think, 2 hours.
Oh, whoa. Goodness.
I think they were seriously in and out of there.
That's a pro, man.
Because they got it all in the truck. They just it's such a, they put in the baffles that you need for we'll talk about that too, I guess. For the soffit vents, they put in those so that, it can still breathe and stuff. So you're not, when you blow in, let's just go ahead and talk about it.
You're not clogging soffit.
Part of that is you put these, they're called soffit baffles, I guess. And essentially what it does is it goes in between your roof joists, and it's a way for the air to still go past. So when you're blowing in insulation, you don't blow insulation on top of your soffit vents, right?
Yep.
Anyhow, so they installed those as well. And then they put up measuring things so I could tell like how much they had blown in. We're going to talk about how many inches of blown in insulation that you need. But essentially when we're talking about attic insulation, you're really only talking about two general types that most people are going to use. And we're actually not bringing in spray foam insulation into this conversation because we feel like that's going to be a whole nother podcast, probably.
Yeah, beyond our expertise level.
Yeah, we've got to do more research on it. And none of us have personally used it other than, what comes out of the can. We've done that, but not one of us has done that in our attic. Now, I do remember getting quotes for that. And it was significantly more, and so I decided against it.
It's more expensive. I've never installed it, but the first house that I bought had it, and it was far superior. It's a really nice product, but it is more expensive.
Yeah. So Tim, what's your number on? So you did DIY vacuum job. What would have been your number on paying somebody after doing it yourself? Like now knowing what you know, what would vacuum, you pay? Yeah. What
all
would
of
you
it
pay
out
for that?
Man. Oh gosh. I mean, I can't stress enough how horrible of a job this was.
All it is, it's a dirty, anybody could do it, right?
Well,
like
just
it's not
imagine,
a hard job.
just let alone crawling around your attic. Okay, let's just say that. Let's just say you go up in your attic right now and you just crawl around your attic for an hour.
Yeah, if you're in a ranch home too, like that, the height of your roof, like the pitch of your roof. We have low ranches, and like you can't even stand full up at all.
And I have a hip style roof too, so I don't have a gable in.
Yeah, so it's even shallower there at the end.
All around the house is very shallow. Yeah. So there was plenty of times where I'm on my stomach and then trying to get insulation that's all the way out at the eaves. So
no.
Anyhow, man, I don't know. That was probably a $1,000 job.
I think it's more than that.
My number was $1,500.
Yeah, probably a $1,500 job. Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to remember what I paid. These are 2009 prices, but I feel like I probably paid close to $200 for that, for the vacuum, for the machine, I would think, because I needed it more than just the one day, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think I had to drive a little distance to even rent the thing because it was a specialized thing that not everybody had.
Yeah. So pro tip, like the DIY end of this is if you want to vacuum out insulation, you could save $1,000 to $1,500, but you need to do it not in the summer. And it would be even better if your house wasn't a ranch.
And maybe we're way low on that number. Honestly, I don't know.
Also call Brandon because he'll help you out.
Sure, I'm sure they do it as a package. Like probably one company will come in and do both.
Right.
Oh yeah.
The other thing too, and this is with tons of DIY stuff that we talk about. No one's going to do that job better than you. So I mean, and in fact, there was several places in the attic where I actually got the shop vac up there.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they're not
because
I think nobody's going to do that job better than Tim.
Maybe. Because the gas-powered vacuum thing, it was like really large hose, and it wasn't good for detail work.
Right.
And there's just like this fine dust, too, because you have to think of that many decades of air coming up through the soffit vents, and air is
basically a huge filter. All that insulation,
exactly, and then all that fine dust just settles onto your insulation, and then it just sits on top of your drywall. So it was all this fine dust up there.
Dude, you for sure have some respiratory illness that's just
no. I wore a mask the whole time.
You got to wear some
legit
PPE.
3M coronavirus protected.
Yeah.
I think the filter's a P100 filter. So I mean, you could spray straight bleach and you would not smell it.
Nice.
with this filter
those are the
mask I've got. Anyhow, so let's go on to installing the insulation.
Okay.
So chances are good you've got insulation in your attic right now, but it's probably not adequate. So let's talk about how much insulation is needed. And so really we're only talking about batt insulation, which is faced or unfaced.
Yep. It's the pink kind.
It's the most common, right?
Looks like cotton candy. You can roll it out.
And that's not the blown in. That's just, it comes in rolls. Now for our conversation today, we're really only talking about blown in insulation, but there are applications where you do batt insulation, especially if you wanted to put a floor down in your attic. In certain areas, maybe you choose to do batt insulation. It's probably not going to give you the R value that you really need. So we're going to be talking about blown in insulation. Josh is going to give us some quick numbers about different areas of the United States and how many inches of blown in insulation you need and what R value that gives you.
Okay, so in the United States, we have climate zones, and there's roughly 8 of them. The further south you are is a 1. So like Miami, Florida is a 1, all the way up to 7. That's in upper Minnesota, way, way cold. And we here in Atlanta are in zone 3. So for zone 3, and again, we're talking loose fiberglass insulation, the kind that can be blown in Atlanta, and actually for most of the southern half of the country, you're going to need anywhere from 12 inches to 24 inches of blown in fiberglass insulation to get the R value that's desired. And those R values are anywhere from 30 to 60 as an R value. So again, in our area and in most of the southern half of the U.S., so a foot to 2 feet of blown in insulation is going to give you adequate R value.
So yeah, that's the easy test. If you guys listening that live in the Georgia, Atlanta area, you can go up in your attic and literally measure how much insulation you have, and we will link to the charts that Josh is referencing, because we're not going to go over all the numbers.
Sure.
You guys don't want us to do that. You can look it up for yourselves. But there are charts out there that'll tell you need X amount of inches of this type of insulation. And so you can go online and you can look at that, and we'll link that in our show notes.
Yeah, so in the Southeast, let's just say the minimum is 12. Like if you have blown-in insulation and you go up to your attic and you stick a ruler or a tape measure down your insulation and you're under a foot, then you are technically under-insulated. And that actually matches the government statistics. They say 90% of homes in the U.S. are under-insulated.
And here's a definite way to tell. If you go up in your attic and you can see the tops of your ceiling joists, then you most definitely do not have enough insulation whatsoever, regardless of your zone, honestly, probably.
Yeah. Like Clark Griswold if you remember him walking around in his attic, they lived up
I live in Chicago.
Chicago, and he had no insulation.
Yeah, that was a cold house.
That was shocking.
So, and the depth is, like we've said, it's very important because that actually traps the air and is what gives you that insulating property. And so if you go up there and you put plywood, like I've done down in your attic to
Just
give you some
smash
storage
all
space,
that
yeah,
down.
you're compressing that, you're compressing the insulation. And so you want to avoid that for sure. The way you can get around that is to build actually a platform up in your attic, but that's another show topic. So, but you just want to be careful not to compress that insulation.
Yep.
Yeah, and there are different types. So if you, for whatever reason, wanted more of a green product besides the fiberglass pink stuff or white stuff, the pink stuff is just what is the company? What is that?
I don't know.
Wow, we should know.
We should know that. What is the pink company?
Pink Panther.
Yeah.
That is one of them.
Owens Corning.
Owens Corning. I don't know why I was like drawing a
go.
blank on that. Anyways,
I totally did too.
mine is not that. Mine is fiberglass, but it's the white. Whatever. Okay, so there are different types of blown-in insulation. We got the fiberglass we already talked about. There's mineral wool. There's also the cellulose, which is recycled
It's like
newspaper.
blue jeans.
Yeah, essentially.
And there's asbestos, but we want to stay away from that.
Yeah,
these
if we
days.
could still use that, that'd be great.
It's a miracle.
There's even plastic fibers, which is made from recycled plastic bottles, mostly, I think. There's natural sheep's wool, which I can only imagine would be incredibly expensive.
Sounds pricey.
Yeah, so I don't think anybody going to do that. But there are different types of blown-in insulation if you'd like a different type. Okay, so let's talk about doing this yourself. So you can buy this yourself at the big box stores. And in fact, if you buy enough insulation at one time, they will give you or rent you the machine to blow this stuff in for free. Now, I mentioned that I hired somebody to do this for me. However, I have helped friends do this at their house. So it's a 2-person job. It's a machine. It's probably, I don't know. It's like smaller than refrigerator size.
It's like dishwasher size, maybe.
Yeah, kind of. It's a little bit taller than that, but it's manageable. So it's not a big deal. I don't think you're going to need a truck to do this. I think you could probably shove it in a trunk or something.
An SUV, yeah.
Yeah, probably. So, but you need one person that's actually blowing it in the attic, and then another person that's feeding the machine. Because, I mean, I guess technically maybe you could do one person, but it would be
terrible.
Would be really horrible because you'd have to
Up and
basically
down.
coming up and down. So it was a huge help if you have another person helping. Now, I will say you have to order X amount, and I don't know what that is. It probably changes all the time, of insulation for them to give you the machine for free, right? So at Home Depot, they say you got to buy X amount, and we'll give you the machine. So if you go up in your attic and you're like, well, I did the calculations and I don't really need that much to get me the machine for free. Well, this is the UK Man spirit. Reach out to a friend, say, hey, I'll help you
Do a couple houses.
do your attic. If you help me do my attic, and then you go in together and then you get the machine, you do it in a day.
Yeah. So one thing, we've started out with Tim's example of sucking out all of the insulation first. But if you're not bothered by what's there, if you don't specifically see rat feces everywhere,
Right.
it is perfectly acceptable to blow insulation in on top of old blown in insulation,
Which is what happens the majority of the time.
So that want to get that caveat of, if you already have 6 inches of insulation, you want to do the math to get you to the 12 or 24, whatever you're preferring.
Right. And definitely check out local, incentives. I don't know if your state government has any sort of incentive, tax break,
Your power company or something.
stuff like that. Different areas of the
energy
country.
savings.
Yeah, energy savings. So, hey, maybe you can even get some sort of tax rebate on this. But we want to stress that the blowing the insulation in is a very DIY project.
Oh,
this
yeah.
this is not something you need to hire somebody for, and you can totally do this on a Saturday, and it's not a big deal, and it pays to do this because it's going to pay for itself. You have to do the math, but it's going to pay for itself over, a few years.
Yeah,
Doing this.
personally, our attic is just I don't even know what to call it. It's the whole thing's under insulated. There's an area over the kitchen that is minimally insulated, and in the summers, I can feel the heat just pounding down through our kitchen ceiling because it's completely under insulated. So it makes a massive difference, especially in the hot summers.
Yep. Well, I think that's going to wrap up our discussion on attic insulation, the most common type, that is, the blown-in insulation. I think we'll revisit this again because I want to talk about the radiant barriers as well that you install on the underside of the roof decking.
Hot topic.
And then we also need ooh, there you go, Josh. Because I've got a friend that did that and he swears by it. Yeah. And then I also, of course, want to talk about these spray foam insulation for sure.
Yes.
So we will definitely be revisiting this again in the future. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, Dave has a segment.
Yes, I do.
This episode is sponsored by 1776 United. 1776 United is a patriotic and historically inspired lifestyle brand. They make the best patriotic shirts and apparel on the market today. I personally own many of their products, and if you want to don patriotic gear without looking gaudy, check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and at 1776united.com.
All right, guys, welcome back. Dave has a segment for us this week. Dave, it better be good.
It's going to be good. So the name of the segment, it's called Medal of Honor.
Oh, Medal of Honor.
Yeah,
I like
so
that.
we're going to get a little bit more serious tonight, but I think it's a fascinating...
Are you going Jocko on us or something?
I am. So I was listening to the Jocko podcast. If you haven't listened to it, it's a fantastic podcast. It gets a little bit dark.
A lot dark.
It gets very dark.
And he's a Navy SEAL.
Yeah. He's a former Navy SEAL and just a fantastic American patriot, but does a great podcast. And so I was listening to it a week or two ago, and he had a guy on named Corporal Kyle Carpenter, who's a Medal of Honor recipient. And so we're going to talk about him tonight. Fascinating story of just a great guy. So Kyle Carpenter, Corporal Kyle Carpenter was a member of the United States Marine Corps. Okay. And so on February 21st, 2010, the 21-year-old then Lance Corporal was in a village in the Helmand province of Afghanistan. Okay, so they were
did they make a movie about this guy?
There's no movie. There's a book, which I'm listening to now. It's a great book. I would recommend getting it. Let's get the name of it here real quick. You Are Worth It, Building a Life Worth Fighting For. Yeah, so it's a good book. Anyway, it's kind of like, I don't know if it's a memoir, but basically about his upbringing, the story of his life in the military, and then the story about the situation where he won the Medal of Honor. Anyway, so he's earned the Medal of Honor. So he's in Afghanistan. He's on the roof of basically a house there with a buddy of his, a fellow Marine. And they're sitting there. They were about to leave Afghanistan. And as part of wrapping up that deployment, they were trying to push out their area of influence to basically push the Taliban further out, so they could occupy more space and pretty much turn over the area better than they found it for the guys and gals coming in. So they're pushing out their area of operation. They go into this village and take up residence in this abandoned house, and they get up on the roof and they're doing like an overwatch, okay, making sure that there are no enemy fighters coming in. Well, long story short, one afternoon, Kyle Carpenter's up there with his buddy. A grenade gets tossed onto the roof. Okay, and I'm going to go to the basically the narrative of the Medal of Honor citation says, the enemy initiated a daylight attack with hand grenades, one of which landed inside their sandbag position on the roof. Without hesitation and with complete disregard for his own safety, Lance Corporal Carpenter moved toward the grenade in an attempt to shield his fellow Marine from the deadly blast. When the grenade detonated, his body absorbed the brunt of the impact, severely wounding him, but saving the life of his fellow Marine. I believe his name was Nicholas, and I'm going to butcher the last name, Eufrazio, who was also seriously wounded. So, talks about on the podcast and in his book, he's sitting there with his buddy on the roof, and they're talking through different scenarios of what could happen because they had only been there, I believe, for a couple days, and they had seen a little bit of action. I think the day before they hadn't seen any grenades all deployment, 0 grenades. The day before they had seen a couple grenades were thrown their way, but I don't believe anything happened. I could be wrong about that. But anyway, they were talking about, hey, what happens if a grenade gets thrown up on this roof? And his buddy's like, I am off this roof immediately. And he said, I'm right behind you if that happens. So a grenade does get thrown up there. He says he doesn't remember anything after that. He remembers, he said, heat, laughing, and then vaguely moving towards something. And that's after that, it is just blackness. So there were multiple eyewitnesses that said they saw him covering the grenade, and basically the blast, what happened with the blast, it went down through the roof, and they said that could pretty much only happen if there was something heavy covering the grenade. And then the damage to his body, to his plate carrier, was indicative of a grenade blast.
Very he close. Just threw himself,
and he says that. He mentions that he never thought that he would throw himself on a grenade. Basically, he just reacted, threw his body on a grenade. He comes to, it's a pretty nasty, obviously a pretty nasty situation. He comes to where the Navy corpsman is trying to basically save his life. And
corpsman is a medical soldier,
right? So
trained.
Right. So a corpsman is a member of the Navy who is essentially like an EMT on the team, who is trained to treat people who are wounded in the field. So the corpsman comes up on top of the roof and is trying to basically stabilize him. Is trying to get a breathing tube into his down his throat, because his jaw, he says, he gives an account of what's going on and what he remembers, and he says basically his lower jaw is gone. Has no lower jaw, can't breathe, choking. Anyway, they get him stabilized. He gets flown out, he gets medevaced out, flown to a series of hospitals. He wakes up. He's kind of conscious right after it happens, but then it just goes black. He's in a coma for 5 weeks. So he wakes up, he's in the desert, super hot. He wakes up 5 weeks later in Bethesda to snow falling outside of his hospital window. And obviously, you can imagine you would be super disoriented because you're hanging out with your buddy, it's really hot, and then blackness, and then you wake up and it's snowing, right? So, he wrote a book about all this, and he goes into depth, a lot of depth, about all these situations, and it's really fascinating. But the second part of this segment is I wanted to get, because the Medal of Honor has always been very fascinating to me. So obviously, jumps on a grenade, he's awarded the Medal of Honor.
What does that mean?
So the Medal of Honor is our nation's highest military award. It's the highest award that you can get if you're in the military. Only military service people can get it. And I'm just going to run down kind of a quick list of things that you are, I guess, entitled to if you win the Medal of Honor. So first of all, each Medal of Honor recipient may have his or her name entered on the Medal of Honor roll. Obviously, okay, if you jump on a grenade, they're going to put your name on a list. Okay, that just makes good sense. Next, each person who has his or her name placed on the Medal of Honor roll is certified to the United States Department of Veteran Affairs as being entitled to receive a monthly pension above and beyond any military pensions or benefits for which they may be eligible. The pension is subject to cost of living increases. As of December 1st, 2018, it is $1,366 per month. So basically, they're going to give you some walking around money for the rest of your life, okay, for jumping on a grenade. Again, just makes good sense. Entitled recipients of the Medal of Honor are entitled to a supplemental uniform allowance. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I guess they get to...
They have extra money to spend on
a uniform.
Uniform needs?
Right.
I don't know.
Recipients receive special entitlement. This one's interesting. To air transportation under the provisions of DoD regulation, blah, blah, blah. This benefit allows the recipient to travel as he or she deems fit and allows the recipient's dependents to travel either overseas, continental U.S., or continental U.S. overseas when accompanied by the recipient. I'm guessing that means that they
can hop on any military plane they want.
I don't think they can do whatever they want. I'm just guessing. I'm thinking that if they're going to ceremonies or sometime, if they're honored, that they get chartered flights privileges. and their dependents or whoever gets to hop a ride for free. I'm just guessing on that, but it sounds pretty awesome. Special identification cards and exchange privileges. Recipients granted eligibility for internment at Arlington National Cemetery. If you've never been there, it's an amazing place. And I think, it's filling up. There are obviously a lot of people interred there. And so it's more difficult to get in. So if you win the Medal of Honor, you can be buried there if you want. They also receive a 10% increase in pay, so they give them a little bit more money, retired pay. They also get an honorary flag, a Medal of Honor flag. And then something else that I thought was interesting and maybe one of the cooler perks is they receive an invitation to all future presidential inaugurations and inaugural balls.
Interesting.
So that'd be pretty cool, right? You get invited to every inauguration.
Wow.
So the list kind of it goes on and on. Their dependents, they get basically preferred entrance into any military academy of their choosing.
Interesting.
So they kind of get, I guess, pushed to the front of the list. So
if your dad's a Medal of Honor,
if your dad wins the Medal of Honor, they're going to let you go to the United States Naval Academy.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, here you go. Yeah. So very, very interesting story. If you're interested in that, check out the book. Like I said, let me get the title here again real quick. So the title of the book is You Are Worth It, Building a Life Worth Fighting For by Kyle Carpenter. It's a fantastic book, a very interesting story, and an American hero.
The Medal of Honor, every Medal of Honor story is incredible, and a lot of Medals of Honor are given posthumously because a lot of people do very heroic things in battle and do not make it out.
Right. So interesting point. In relation to that, Kyle Carpenter is he was the youngest living recipient of the Medal of Honor. I believe he's still the youngest living recipient of the Medal of Honor currently. He and Dakota Meyer were the only two living United States Marines to receive the Medal of Honor since the Vietnam War.
Wow.
So they don't. There aren't a lot of people who are awarded that honor who are still alive. Yep. So yeah, like Josh said, a lot of times it's awarded posthumously.
Yep, they're not handing them out.
Yep. Yeah, that was interesting, and I just want to say, obviously, thank you so much to any of our servicemen that are listening to the UK Man podcast.
Yes,
we really appreciate your service. I think that's going to do it for this week's show. Hope you guys learned something about insulation this week, and you're going to get up in your attic and check out how much insulation you have. So until next time, take some time to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'll catch you guys next time.